Hello there, and as usual, I'm Aaron from Mast Effect Gamers, and welcome. So today is Thursday, and we all know what happens on Thursday. We've got an exciting new update from the Space Engineers developers, and you're probably wondering what you'll be getting your hands on in this week's update. Well, the first thing I want to show you is a new particle effect that has been added to the ships, to the spacemen, as they are traveling at higher speeds. So when you get to about 20 meters a second, you're going to see a new particle effect. So we're just going to take off this little ship here, and we're going to begin accelerating, and I'll put my hood on so you can actually see it. So when we get over 20, you can see that we've got all these particles flying around the ship, and if I drift backwards, you can see they're actually flying in the direction we're heading. A pretty cool and pretty nice little effect to have on. It really gives more of a sense of actual movement, especially when you're looking at a very bland piece of the screen. So say for instance I was looking off into space in this direction, it's hard to tell that I'm actually moving, but them little strikes of whatever they may be, asteroid, parts of other ships, rocks, I don't know, I'm sure there's a bit of a better explanation what they actually are. But you can see it really helps to define which direction we're traveling in. If I drift to the side, you can see I can still recognize which direction I'm traveling in. So a really cool little feature. Now the next feature I want to show you is to do with the mass of ships. Now we've got a mining ship and we've got a welding and grinding ship here, and this is going to really affect how you build them. Now the mass of the actual ships itself are going to remain the same, but when you start to add components to them, the mass is now going to increase. So this means if you build a ship that's very weak on thrusters and sort of power, so say for instance we've got this mining ship, if I start to mine and fill up that rear cargo container, it's going to get more sluggish with the controls, and it's going to be harder to actually move around and move around slower. So as you can see at the moment here, it's still quite sluggish, but I can still move around quite quickly with it, and we're not really struggling on the power or the speed for acceleration. But let's do a little bit of mining and see how that extra weight is going to affect us. Now this is a really good example of how the mass systems work, and you can see in the right hand corner as the mass is increasing, the mass also increases of the ship when the player hops in. Anything from his inventory that weighs will be added to the ship itself, so it's really cool indeed. Now this currently doesn't affect stations, so if you dock with a station, it's not going to increase the mass of an actual station, but still a really cool factor. Now we've tried that out, let's actually pull away and see if we can still control this ship. Now just look how sluggish that is in response. You can see it's moving extremely slow, and when it comes to building mining ships or even cargo freighters, you're going to have to now take this into consideration. It's going to mean that your ship's going to take longer to stop, and it's going to take longer to actually get out of there, so you're going to have to add more thrusters and more power to actually sort of account for that added weight that you'll be adding to your ship. Now the final thing I want to show you is that 2 new tutorials have been added for both oxygen and energy. Now, if you're rather new to the game, I highly recommend that you check these out because they're really useful and they can really help guide you through the game. You can just see the detail of this actual tutorial level like I've seen before. It tells you everything you need to do from picking up the tool to moving it, and in this case we're actually having a look at the oxygen scenario, and you can see we've got a big pile of ice there that the player's going to have to mine through to gain enough oxygen when he puts it in the oxygen generator here, and you can take the time to read through the signs. Like I've said before, it'd be really cool if there was a little AI voice who could read out these tutorial signs and help them people that are maybe not as good in English or so on. So we can actually proceed through that door once the oxygen tank moves on. It uses the whole scenario setup, and you can see it's got a rest of this station with loads of helpful little tutorial tips. Anyway, I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.